Yo, what's really good, everybody? It's your boy Argenis, aka Geniside, and we are here with a special episode of Street Geeks. You know what I'm saying? I'm with my boy MAKCAPONE, you already know. And we have a special guest today since, listen, I've been telling y'all for a minute, we've been going hard on this Pokemon thing, Pokemon TCG. There's so many other things we're involved in, but today's episode is going to be specifically on that. And we have a special guest today, man, a homie that's, good vibes every time we link up. And just pretty much the goal today is to give you a different perspective since we all have our own experiences with collecting, selling, pushing Pokemon, however it is that you're going about it nowadays, especially with the way the market is. With that being said, special guest today is Stefan. Stefan, what's good, my brother?
How's it going, guys? It's your boy MJ from Team Pocket. Banners in the mail. Just kidding. But yeah, I've been here in the Pokemon community since November. We started as like a couples kind of workshop exercise to do something together. Lost hobbies together, got some new ones, and we hit pretty big a couple times, and we compounded that.
Word, straight to the point. So dope, man. It's crazy because it sounds like a lot of like stories starting out. Obviously, it's always pulling something big and getting that feeling like holy shit,
that rush,
that rush. Yeah, but then it's like if you're me, and I'm talking from personal experience, you hit big that first time. That's when you get involved. You're like, yes, I'm gonna conquer the world. Next thing you know, you don't get shit for like the next 200 packs, and then you're wondering why you even joined, especially with how expensive the market is now. But again, a collector's a collector. He's gonna do what he does. That's what I do. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, let's get straight to the point, man. Tell us a little bit about yourself, bro. How did you get started in general? You know what I'm saying?
He was a stang man.
Let's see, how does this go? So I have a real bad problem with microtransactions. I really do love like digital games. They take up a lot of my time.
Okay.
I even like made some money off of doing Destiny accounts and doing raids with people, grinding out stuff on Warframe or World of Warcraft, and so I'm hovering over spending like $100 on that Pokemon TCG Pocket game that came out. Super cool. Love the dopamine hit of, man, I get to open 2 packs a day. This is awesome.
Yeah, facts.
And right before I buy, just something in me is like, man, I could just buy real cards. I used to do Magic the Gathering, so I know that cards have a value, and it's real expensive to do Magic. I actually bought a car off of selling one deck.
Yeah, that one's different.
Yeah, man.
That's crazy.
That's a classic.
I heard about that
man.
And so instead of that, I went and I spent $60 on a Surging Sparks booster bundle at peak for the Pikachu SIR, and the rest is history. I flipped it to a friend of mine, and I started counting ETBs. There's only one SIR per case guaranteed, so I just kind of started chasing it. Hey, do you know who hit off of this? What are the ratios? I feel like I've never made this much money doing scratch-offs, for instance, right? Because there's a ratio. There's something calculable here.
It's funny that you say scratch-offs because that's kind of what I did. Mm-hmm. So, just to kind of throw it out there real quick, but it's like you mentioned scratch-offs, and it's like, man, I was playing scratch-offs, you feel me? And it's like the ratio thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, when the homie Mac over here started really getting into the Pokemon thing, that's how he was just like, bro, it's just up a pack, and it's just like, man, you know what? If I already spend it on scratch-offs, there's a possibility that the ratios will be a little bit better if I buy Pokemon packs and, with the concept of pulling something. Yeah. And it's crazy because I did that, and on my first $50 spent, I pulled the Blastoise SIR from 151. And here I am, not having the full knowledge yet.
And it was clean, too.
Yeah, it was super clean. And I went, listen, it probably only lasted in my hand for like 10 seconds because I didn't have like the knowledge then. So when I looked at it, all I did was get up quick and go to my homie and be like, yo, is this a serious card? Because the shit looked nice. He was like, bro, you have no idea how many packs I try opening to pull that. And here's you're a beginner, and boom, on your first $50 spent, you pull this. Listen, I sent that bitch to get graded. Like, I didn't even, I haven't seen it since. But you know what I'm saying?
That's the trainer's dilemma, dude. That's the trainer's dilemma.
But that was it right there, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what sparks the joy for me. Now that I'm a vendor, I started vending in early January, kind of. Somebody let me eat at their table. It was super cool. They had a store. I came in with a bunch of stuff, and they liked it, and we made a connection. And I was like, man, I would love to do this. He said, why don't you? Well, it's expensive to get a booth right now for me. Sell stuff here. That was super duper helpful. That's why now I let people eat at my table, because it's like that The Pokemon community is probably the kindest community I've ever seen in anything competitive for card games. It's amazing.
I
It's
agree
amazing.
100%.
For the people that don't know, where's your vendor table at? Where are you located?
I'm over at the Market of Marion. It's right off of 441 past the Ford dealership here in Bellevue.
Okay.
It's open Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays. I work a full-time job on top of Pokemon, so I'm only there until noon on Friday, but the rest of the weekend I'm there.
So make sure y'all pull up.
Tap
Y'all already
in.
here, man. Tap in, support. You feel me? He out there grinding with it, man. That's dope. What was your first big pool then? Like, what would you say was the one that when you opened, when you started, you were like, okay, I need to do this.
Let me go
I need
crazy.
to do
For
this.
me, I think for me, the biggest pull that really pulled me in was that Lost Origins Giratina. The one with that beautiful black contrast with the red art on top of it, the gold foil. It almost, the textures, it was almost a raised card, almost like a 3D card. I think it was really cool.
Facts.
And so holding that in my hand was like, man, I want to open more packs. And
What was it going for at the time?
At the time, it was the Entei, which I had pulled in a ETB before, and I'm like, you know what? I might as well do one more. There's only 3 on the shelves, and so I got one more, and there it was in my hands. I couldn't believe it. Recently, the most exciting pull we got was the Sunbryon from Terrestrial Festivals.
The Japanese, of course, for those who don't know, that's the Japanese version of... I'm waiting for an answer.
Prismatic
Evolution. I'm checking y'all, man.
I thought you was going to answer.
I was just like, you know. Anyway, so yes, Prismatic Evolutions, for those who know, who have gotten involved buying that TCG too, especially me, I can tell you right now, that sucker burns me. That's one of the worst. Well, I'm not going to say it's one of the worst sets, but for experience-wise, me trying to pull something, man, I'm still taking L's off of Prismatic. You know what I'm saying?
Prismatic is dangerous, man.
It sure is.
Prismatic
They call it
dangerous.
traumatic evolutions now.
Yeah,
Traumatic evolutions.
Yeah, so it's one of those things that, again, and it's one of those series that is still up there.
Hey, but I did pull 2 Flareons, not gonna hold you. I pulled 2 Flareons. Let me just get my
I witnessed it. So he ain't lying. I witnessed it.
Bless you.
Bless.
Yeah, bless you over there, man. That shout out to Primo. You know what I'm saying? Holding it down on the boards. Yeah, we'll work on the sound effects, everybody. Don't worry, we ain't got shit preloaded right now. We're just vibing. You feel me? We keeping it real. That's the thing, man. It's Street Geeks. You know what I'm saying? All right, so talking about now that you also got a spot in the flea market and just your experiences in general. What would you say so far since you've been in it has been your biggest challenge?
I think my biggest challenge has been the investments I made starting out. I thought certain avenues were the best it got. I bought a bunch of 50-cent cards at Double Market. I bought a bunch of sealed product off of Whatnot. I thought I had found kind of a formula there. And so it actually got to the point where I was sitting on, a good $5,000 worth of inventory. But it wasn't stuff that I got at any kind of a good deal. And so how do I convert that? Right? Was the biggest hurdle was converting it. If I could go back with the inventory I have now and go back to November, which is the second biggest hurdle for me, November was a low swell for the Pokemon. That's kind of what we jumped in right before the craze really picked back up. And so just even sourcing material, all the prices of cards have gone exponentially up, amazingly up, right? Which is great. But had I started a little sooner or figured it out a little earlier or could have had that breathing room, would have had that wiggle. Would have had that wiggle. But apart from that, it's been amazing. Absolutely amazing.
So where you stand at now, how do you figure out, like, what you want to purchase, what you want to move? Do you go based off what you like, or do you do your research and figure out, this card's cute or that card, that's one of the big chases. Let me go for that. How do you go about it?
For me, it's a lot of data mining. I think because it's a speculative market based off of an image, it kind of follows a lot of the network and framework of NFTs, and when those were really big. And so with the way that I look at it, it is really looking at what are people talking about. I don't personally use a whole lot of TikTok, but my girl does. And, all the time she's seeing these cards pop up, cute cards in my collection. Lo and behold, a couple weeks pass by and those cute cards go up a couple dollars. I slagged, there was a Lucario. It was 50 cents everywhere locally. People just weren't on top of the trends. And so I picked up 25 of them for 50 cents a pop, and they swelled up to $10 at one point. Dumped them all. When I'm looking at it personally, I'm looking for either cards that are trending up, or following the Pokemon community, trying to get an idea of Gardevoir went up part of that's because of the meme of the Gardevoir plushie, you know, and so like really looking at that, what some people would call that pop culture, but I just say culture aspect of it, you know, the internet humor culture, the spending trends of the people with the money, you know, our nerd community. That's really what are people talking about right now. Also, I go to bed and wake up looking at what's trending. You know, I might not understand it, but it might be like, you know, Mega Pokemon started trending up before Pokemon announced that Mega Pokemon were coming back, and now they're going up way more, right? So you just follow those simple trends. And for me, what really got me jump started is a lot of people think that you need to do whale things. You need whale money to make whale investments to get whale profits, right? Here I am, a small fish, but when you're doing small compounds, you know, what I like to tell people is you wouldn't leave a dime on the ground if you walk past it. You wouldn't leave a penny most of the time, you know, and so it comes down to, are you okay with that 10% increase in your profit? That's great. That compounds over time. If you start doing that, get an average of 50% a week, you know, and you end up in a place like I am where I spent $60 and my personal money that I worked for, and everything else in my collection has come from moving Pokemon around, either trading up, trading down, making deals, a little bit of travel. I guess I don't count the gas money, but Pikachu pays for that. Facts. Pikachu pays for some nice lunches in Orlando. It's really cool. It's really cool.
So, just like a side note, you have a PC? Do you have a personal PC out of it, or are you, again, more involved in just the market itself? And
I think the market is an unfortunate necessity if you want to do what I like to do is playing, right? And so I used to have a deck, and I had an opportunity to open up a table for $20, so I did, but I didn't have enough inventory. So I spent a lot of time spending a personal collection. My only personal collection were those 60 cards in that deck, and I put it all in a top loader, put it all on the table, sold half of it that day. It was amazing. I compounded, and I always said I would buy it back. I never did, not yet. Rotation just happened. Regionals just happened. I just sponsored somebody to go, blinged out their deck. It was awesome. I wish I could have gone. But the way that I look at it and lecture my girl about all the time is, you know, the only thing that provides, she has a personal collection, and it's really good. It's really cool looking. But I think that really throwing yourself in if you want to succeed, especially off those small compounding interests into a portfolio, you really just have to, everything that you get has to go on the table. It has
to go.
I get to enjoy, I'm very proud to be a custodian of a card. Like I just had to move a Gengar VMAX today from Fusion Strike. Gorgeous card. I would have brought it today, but it had to move.
It's like it had to go. You know what I'm saying? Somebody had to catch that one. You know what I'm saying? And, that's the whole point.
I got it above I sold it at above market, which is always a blessing, you know, and I would have loved to have kept that in a binder and shown it
now
off.
Now it's above market to you, though.
Okay, so seeing as I only started in November, things like TCG only kind of set a threshold for me. Yeah. Seeing as I work in a flea market, that also kind of only sets a threshold for me because there are some cards that just have additional value that people don't consider in the first place. If you're ordering from TCG, you're paying shipping. If you're ordering from eBay, you're paying shipping. If you're selling on eBay, you're paying percentages, you know. And so just because you find a card in a brick and mortar location, you actually get more benefit out of that. So I think that deserves a premium like it would in any other collectible community. You know, I think interestingly, Pokemon hasn't kind of caught up to the idea that assessing condition. I got a lot of people that come to me to find gradable cards. You know, you can't do that on the gamble of purchasing online. So I'll put and also depends on the trend of the card. Like Mega Pokemon right now, I know are going way up. So I sold a Mega Charizard, number 69, nice. And it's a gorgeous card. Comps at like 175. I sold it for 220 in light play, which isn't bad. And you know, at the end of the day, I really think that it's about people understanding that it's part of preserving. People like Pokemon because the cards are valuable. That card's value and the interest that comes into it isn't preserved by selling under whoever sold most recently, right? That's how you collapse it, and I've seen that a million times with NFTs, you know. And so there are some people who I worked in sales for many years, and something I realized is most of the people that say no would have said no anyways. There's no, you could get on your knees and beg, but there's no amount of begging that would have closed that sale in the first place, you know. And so you're really just looking for those people that say the yes, and if they say yes, they're always happy. I have people that shop with me all the time. and those are cards that they're genuinely happy with having. And obviously, I give bigger deals to collectors if I can tell someone's a pure collector. You know, they don't pull out their phone to check for comps while they're shopping with me, and you know they're going for
they don't take
a
the
particular
extra
Pokemon.
time to research. I guess it's just because of the convenience. Again, you don't have to wait for the card.
Yeah.
If it's there in front of you, you don't have to, like you said, you know, let's
How
say
bad
for the
do you want
shipping
it?
and all that. How
And
bad do you want it? Yeah, are you willing to pay for the fact that you ain't have to wait on it and it's right there?
Yeah.
You
And
know
those
what I'm saying?
collectors, I actually give under market prices too, because I really do want to players get the best deals from me. Most of the time, they can come through and just pick whatever playables they need. If they want to bling out their deck a little bit, you know, I make enough money in the other side of the business. Mystery packs do great for me, especially around times like Easter. Happy Easter, everybody!
Yeah,
Like Easter.
happy Easter. Fans.
Hello,
Easter.
future people. You know, I like to give deals to the people that actually love this game because I want to preserve that communal love.
You also want to preserve the natural state of Pokemon TCG, which is the fact that it's a trading card game, and people still, you know, again, be surprised. It don't matter. You know, it doesn't have to be a holographic for people. It doesn't have to be a certain type. You know, people are trying to complete decks just to play and enjoy the game itself, which is dope because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, let's put it like this. If there's an opportunity you can take advantage of, you know, what human wouldn't, you know, but when you can also have that mentality, which I appreciate in that sense, you know what I'm saying, to where it's like you're also still, you know what it is, but you also know there's the real fan base that appreciates the gameplay.
And you make people's weeks, dude. Like the amount of dopamine I get from just really making someone happy at the end of the day, you know, they'll think about that all week. They come back and say, thank you so much. And that impact on a positive experience for people, that's something that's really important to me.
Facts.
You know, just impacting that personal growth and personal journey. You know, I think that, you know, just a couple nice things will change someone's whole week, and that change in the week can be great for them, you know.
Facts. So do you feel like with all those factors, obviously, do you feel like, let's say with the state of the market now, is it like an advantage for you, or is it more of a, because, you know, as far as a collector, there's no advantage to it.
Right.
Because they can't go out and purchase these things.
Right.
You know, they're buying things at higher prices, knowing that they going for the love of it. It don't matter if they get a chase. They're trying to build these things. Do you feel like in the position you're in, the market is, you have advantage in that sense? Like, do you feel you're in a state where, because it is in this state itself, like this is where you can capitalize?
I think that the growth of my portfolio has helped in my ability to kind of stabilize. I started in November, which was like a little low spike, and then we've been doing nothing but growing up. I think that was the biggest and probably the only advantage I have. I found that, for instance, I had that Gengar. I had to travel a little over an hour and a half round trip to move that Gengar. You know, that's to put in perspective, if you're spending $1,000 on a Pokemon deal, you get it at 70%. That's $700, right? Then you put $40 in the tank. That's 74% that you actually spent for that, plus time, you know. And so it's actually made it harder to sell because of that high market value. Okay. It raises the popularity, but, you know, who has $400 to drop on their favorite card? Nobody. It's actually, I think, a net loss overall. Of course, you know, succeeding is awesome, but you have to be happy with the success you get. You know, my portfolio growing up a few hundred, you know, every couple of weeks, that's a good success for me. You know what I mean?
Right on.
And so I also think different people would give you different answers on that same, you know, idea.
And
you know,
again, that's what we're looking for, because we all have our own opinions on it. You know what I'm saying? And again, it's one of those things that, you know, it happens with, you know, I guess let me be straightforward. It happens with anything that's hot. If you think about it, you know, people do jump on it for what the value of it is at the moment until the thing crashes, burns out. Man, you know what? I remember Beanie Babies was a thing.
Beanie Babies,
you know what I'm saying? The Beanie, they went crazy. You know, everything has its phases. The only thing is, obviously, out of all those things that have their phases, Pokemon doesn't have a phase. Pokemon's been strong. Yes. Obviously, it's had its died down moments that you would say, but the community's always been strong. It hasn't changed, you know, and the love for it hasn't changed. And it's been something that, 30 years?
30 years next
30
year.
years plus, you know what I'm saying? It's going to go on plus. And
they're
when
talking
I say
about
plus,
they're good for 50 to 100 more years.
Bro, they're going to keep adding motherfuckers on that
It's
shit. You know, and the thing is it's just something that's so well established. You know what I'm saying? That's why, like, again, the market with this, it's one of those things that it's completely different to something that just doesn't have that life in it as long. You know what I'm saying? So it's just dope. Again, it's dope to get these perspectives. You know. With that being said, what would you say so far? Because we all have memorable moments, and I'm not talking about pulling a card.
Right.
It could be an experience with a client or another collector. You know, however you want to look at it. What would you say has been one of your most like memorable moments where you're like, again, this is just continues to solidify. Like you said, man, you're still building your catalog. You continue to build your reputation. You continue to still build your business in general. So what would be one of those key moments?
I would say I think one of the biggest moments was when I realized that I could go from buying a collection at 30% to flip it to 40 to buying a collection and selling it myself. And so I had bought a big bunch of bulk off of somebody just recently that really like marks it in because I didn't used to buy bulk, right? And I probably missed out on a lot of opportunities, but I bought a bunch of bulk recently that really changed everything. I got out of a $40 purchase, I pulled out at least $1,200 worth of hits in there, unsleeved, gorgeous condition, you know. I almost couldn't believe it. So I took it to a bunch of locals. Everyone said they were real, and I could have danced. I could have cried, dude. I could have cried. You know, it's not really about the size of the come up for me, though. It's just to know that I make, you know, a minimum of 10%, because that always compounds. For me, you know, I work nearly 60 hours a week in the factory. So for me, it is a...
We're chopping it up. You go. Yeah.
For me, it's more of a matter of, can I make this sustainable? I love this hobby. You know, I don't want to have to take away from my bills, my home life. You know, I was able to buy a car because I work hard. You know, my wife's car went out. I got her one, couple of beaters, but it works. You know, and so transferring that over to doing the thing that I love. How can I afford it? Because I truly am a collector at heart. If I could hit enough Pokemon where it could be neutrally sustainable.
Yeah,
then,
to where you can still work on your PC and still do what you do. Yeah, no, facts. And you said you also, I know we had talked about it earlier, you know, it's one of those things, man, you are also into like Magic also, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, very competitive card player.
Yeah, you know, everything has its market at the end of the day. Yeah. When it comes to Magic, are you in any way involved, let's say... I know it's still a trading card thing, but you know, as far as popularity, you know, Pokemon is just what's hot. But do you get yourself involved at all, even in, let's say, the Magic market also?
So I actually put all of my free time that isn't scanning cards and putting price tags on, keeping the house good, working 40, 50, 60 hours. I do a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, so I am pretty active in the nerd community. I've been a dungeon master for 14 years. And I would love to play Magic. I would love to play a lot of my hobbies. I do a lot of Warhammer. I did a lot more, but you know, I try to catch a little tabletop Warhammer game here and there. I like painting the minis. The 3D printer's fun to use. You know,
word, yeah.
And but that, unfortunately, the only card games that I can keep up right now are Pokemon.
Bro, it consumes.
Yeah, it does.
Pokemon is going crazy right now.
It does.
Listen, again,
I'm crazy.
I'm a beginner. Again, I think I started January, right?
That's
January?
super interesting because when I started, I've never played a Pokemon game in my life. I've never watched the show.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So you know, you say that, me, it was the opposite. I do remember growing up playing it because back in the days, Toys R Us used to actually have their own Pokemon leagues. So when they first came out, you know, you only had the 150, you know, and then we would go to the 151. Yeah, okay, I know, the honorable mention, but you know, it's one of those things that I remember going to Toys R Us, man. There was actual Pokemon League. You trade with others, you get badges, and you would visit different Toys R Us's, and it was like, you know what I'm saying? It was dope. And then when Digimon came out,
that was mine. That was my thing.
That was mine.
Metal
to the
Garurumon, dude.
Listen,
I never cared too
that
much
was
Digimon, I'll be honest.
It's the first isekai.
Listen, bro, I think it was just ahead of its time. People weren't ready for the digital era yet, and that
and shit, you know what I mean?
Man,
maybe a little Yu-Gi-Oh here and there, but Pokemon, that was my go-to.
Nah, you missed out on Digimon, bro. You really did. You know what I'm saying? That was gas. I started collecting that. I'll put it to you like that. Like when I started actually collecting cards, of which I still have my original base set, the original ones at the starter set. Bro, I was such a huge Digimon fan. You know, then it was like that period where it's just like, yeah, you fucking grow up, man. I ain't got time for that shit. You know what I'm saying? You fucking grow up. You know, you get involved, and then obviously as I'm older, I got into comics and all that, and then who would have thought, man?
It's crazy.
I'm about to turn 39, and I just hop back onto Pokemon.
Damn.
Yeah, I ain't afraid to tell my age, bro. And that's one thing about me. I ain't, because you know
I'm
what? With that
42,
age, bro, I
man.
can tell you, I fucking went through all these eras, man. You know what I'm saying? And I enjoyed a lot of these phases. You know what I'm saying?
No,
so
that's the beauty of it. You get to see the growth. Like, even going back then watching Pokemon.
you hear that
teenagers,
shit, though? 39 years old and in Pokemon right now. That shit sound insane.
This motherfucker
But just know, but you know what? It's not anymore. That's the thing. Back in the days, and I talk about it on my Street Geek episodes, we used to get made fun of just for enjoying. Well, you know, you could say being a nerd, a geek, whatever. It was just, we loved things. We had passions for these things, man. You know, from anime to whatever it is.
That's
and
another thing they did.
You know, it's not an age, bro.
It wasn't a cool thing back then.
Back then, people didn't realize what an impact, you know, a moment in a show could have on like your life. You know what I mean?
Facts.
When Gohan's like, I could feel it slipping, and I can't take it anymore. You know, I was right in front of the TV, screaming right with him. It was just a raw emotion that changes you forever.
Yeah,
those are experiences, and a lot of people just didn't catch on to it. Nowadays, though, you see old heads watching anime. My mom is watching at 30-something. Hi, Mom.
We're at our 30-somethings. It's cool.
My mom is watching Hellsing right now. Out of everything, out of anything to watch. And she's talking about Hellsing. That's so interesting to me. You know what I mean? Something that when I was a kid, something like that's on TV, you know, turn the stuff off. But, you know.
Facts. Me, I, honestly, you know, again, I have that age. I still watch Dragon Ball Z. I watched that whole season of Daima. You know, right now I started an anime called Moonrise on Netflix by the people who did the last season and the animation to Attack on Titans last season. So yeah, I enjoy all that, you know what I'm saying? Especially being a Marvel fan, that's the biggest thing that I'm into. Like, yes, I almost had a shrine at my crib at one point that was just like a Marvel room. I was hoping one day I could become famous enough to get Stan Lee's attention and then show him I had a little mini Marvel studio, which regardless coming soon. Street Geeks, man, we got some big changes coming. You guys are gonna love what y'all gonna see soon. I didn't get to throw this question out there, though. You know, we talk about all this Pokemon stuff, man, and you know, one of the biggest questions that we forget to ask people, what's your favorite Pokemon? If you have to pick one.
No. My favorite Pokemon has to be Colon.
Okay, yeah, you look more like an Onyx or Steelix kind of guy.
Machoke, maybe. Machoke. You know,
Machoke? Okay.
Get that protein in.
I fuck with
that protein
in.
Baki Hanmades. You got to get that. It reminds me a lot of Baki.
Yeah, Baki Hanma?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bro, I love that anime too. Mine, you know, I don't know if I mentioned it before, but I'm a Scyther / Scissor type guy.
There's
but then if
Clevo
not, Vulpix too, you know, going into Ninetales. Those are, I would say, those my.
There's a gorgeous Ninetales card where it's like all golds on the background and the tails all unfurled.
Yeah, is that no? I had the. It wasn't the gold one. It was the one from Obsidian Flames, if I'm not mistaken. The Ninetales, right? The Ninetales I got was from the Obsidian Flames. Yeah, the one with the same thing. Yeah, with the tail wide open, beautiful. But those, I would say that, yo, which one's yours? You look like a Meowth type guy.
That's right.
Nah, Persian, my shit.
Meowth a gangster, though.
Yeah, nah, with me, I mean, Zard and Raichu was always my go-to as a kid, but, like, I always enjoyed the evolution. So, like, the top evolutions of, like, Squirtle and fucking Blastoise to Charmander to Zard and Pikachu to Raichu, Venusaur and Bulbasaur, like, those were my tops, you know what I mean? I always had to make sure I had that in my collection. And then can't forget about the Machamp, Machoke, and what's the other one? Machop. Machop was my shit. The whole evolution of that was crazy.
Yeah, but you know who people be sleeping on too? And it reminds me, because, you know, when you mentioned, like, the Machoke, Machamp, and, man, Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan.
Those two was dangerous.
That duo, if you had them on your squad, you getting punched and kicked in your shit. You know what I'm saying? That's straight to the point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. They were actually based off of real people.
You see, that's fire.
Hitmonlee is based off of Bruce Lee. Hitmonchan is based off of a famous kickboxer, a famous Muay Thai artist.
Oh, you see? That shit.
Snorlax
that shit
is
tough.
based off of guy who loved to eat in the Pokemon office when they were
Yeah, I
designing
saw
it.
that one. Yeah.
Fat.
Looks kind of like him too, just a little bigger.
just
and
a little.
fatter.
Just a little jolly
Yeah,
guy.
he was sleeping half the time
You know what
too
I'm
while he
saying?
was at work, slacking.
Japanese Santa.
Snorlaxing.
Snorlaxing.
Yeah.
Dude, that's fire, man. You know, just to kind of say, man, I appreciate your perspective and time.
That's
you know
smooth.
what I'm saying? I love to hear it. Again, you know, we all have our journeys, we all have our experiences. We all have what draws us back in. You know, most people will say nostalgia. Some people say it's just the collector side of it. When you're, you know, when you love just trying to attain hard pieces. You know what I'm saying? That challenge of going on these hunts and stressing because you do have to get up early and try to beat others to it, or whatever the case may be. You go to cons and wait in big lines, or, you know, whatever it is that you go to attain that piece that makes you feel complete. You know what I'm saying? I guess that's the best part about it. And then hearing the perspective also from somebody, not just from the collector side, but again, you know, it's a market. You know, people do push Pokemon cards. You know, in the perspective of also helping people attain these cards that are usually hard to get. You know, it's one of those things that, you know, if you're the type that you don't want to keep ripping these packs open and you want to attain your card, you know, that's the hunt. That's the hunt. You know, so it's one of those things. It's whatever you like to do. Again, man, I appreciate your time. You know what I'm saying? And my last question would be, at least from my perspective, with what you're doing, how do you feel that you are impacting the market? What change do you feel? What are you bringing to the table that's setting yourself
from
everybody else?
I think the biggest thing that I change is bringing the heart back into the heart of the cards. I feel like there's a lot of good vendors out there, but there's even worse ones that tend to lose the idea that this is a trading card game. When people come to my booth, sometimes only one kid will buy something, right? Everyone's getting a Pokemon card. It's important to remember that at the end of the day, this is a business, yes, but a neutral loss isn't a bad thing. Remember that there's people out there, and that's something that I try to do and I think do well, is make sure that through getting into trying to make money on this as an industry, I don't forget that I wanted someone to trade for me, you know, at anything above 40%, and I couldn't find that. You know what I mean? And so now, you know, I meet even as a booth at a flea market, I meet or beat any local on trade value. Yeah, I think that's really the biggest impact, is just taking care of people.
Right on.
Remembering that I started as a collector opening packs.
Right on. Just a collector opening packs.
But now, if you're saying, like, let's say, bringing the heart back into the sport, right? But then we go back to you talking about the Gengar, how, you know, you swindled your way in there, you got a little profit out of that.
I mean, profit isn't
not
bad.
Everybody's going to look at it like you are bringing the heart. Some people will look at it like, oh, well, he's a hustler. He's got to make ends meet. He's got to do what he's got to do on his side. But then other people will look at it like, no, I'm going to pay that for the card. It's worth that. I'll pay double that, if anything.
I always do my best to make an assessment off of what people look like they're doing. You know, you're not going to get a deal from me if you're a reseller. Resellers don't shop with me unless you're looking for something for a PC, and then even then I'll give you market price for it, because eventually it'll end up in a sale pile.
Yeah.
When I got rid of that Gengar, I got with a dude who had a bunch of sealed product. You know, someone doesn't just come across that much sealed product. That's probably potentially a scalper, potentially something else, you know. And those are things that I think where I don't really like to participate in. But so when I am getting a little bit of profit, it's because I know this guy is going to get a little bit of profit. And so I want something fair, or, you know, I lost in another spot on another card and it has to equalize out. You know, it's important to remember who you're dealing with and if they're good people, but, you know, it's easy to tell, you know, things, again, like I said, pulling out your phone and comping in the spot. You know, something I do is I leave a lot of cards,
of course,
you know, priced under, and a couple cards priced over, and then some cards unpriced, you know what I mean? And so you can tell if someone's like, well, what's the price of this? What's the price of that? They're shopping with their heart, you know? Then we comp it, and something I do that a lot of places don't is I comp it, and then I show it to them. You know, if I'm doing a trade at 45%, I tell them how I got there. I show them the math. I show them the comp scanned into collector, you know? So I'd be as transparent as possible. People reach out to me with like lots. Yeah, transparency. That's really all it is, you know? It's nothing to be ashamed of. Everyone knows that there's profit to be made. But who are you making that profit off of? Am I making a profit off of a single dad of 3, or am I making the profit off of
a scalper?
A scalper.
Well, how often would you say that you budge? You know what I'm saying? Because the Gengar and the Megazord, 2 beautiful cards.
Gorgeous.
I assumed the buyers were extremely happy.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Because I know I would be. So the people, let's say, that disagree with your price and the people that's like, what the fuck? Like, how do you handle those people in that situation?
You know, I've been
do you
fortunate
budge a
enough
little
to
bit and drop a price a little bit to where you make the sale, or do you just say, I'll hold off a little bit?
I think that, me personally, I try to work on saying no a lot more. It's something that I don't normally do in my day-to-day life, and if I want to stay on the right path, I try to say no a lot more. But again, it really depends. Am I at a trade night with, somebody who looks like a younger kid, like when I'm dealing with kids, I'll never talk numbers with a child.
Yeah,
I always need a parent. Hey, this is what's going on. This is what their card is worth. It's up to them, but it's ultimately up to you. You know what I mean? I fortunately haven't had anyone be like, these are overpriced, except for, people who wanted a real deal off of it. They wanted to try and flip it, right? And that's something I kind of suss out right away. Like this sealed collection I posted.
So just assessing the
Exactly.
situation.
But now the person that said that this card is overpriced, have you ever had an experience where one of those persons still bought that card? That overpriced card that they was complaining about?
Yeah, absolutely.
How often do you see that happening in your world?
Not very often, honestly. Generally, it's the only time somebody, if they're still like, I guess, and again, if they're a collector, they brought 3 binders. Oh, none of this is for trade. This is just my personal. Hey, it says 85 on there. Market's 60, right? I'll do 55 for you. I just actually gave a bunch of stuff away at under market for a bunch of collectors. That's just about the community. Yeah. I want to be part of the market and the industry, but I kind of want to cut out the more harmful aspects of that.
Sure.
The only people that are subject to the higher prices are going to be people who are flipping. I got a lot of whatnotters come through. They get hard bargains driving, and that's the other thing is the additional work it takes to make a deal with somebody like that. And lots of people are abrasive. Or
are you an active whatnot streamer still, or
no? I did one night and I realized it wasn't for me. I realized it absolutely wasn't.
But you made over 700. Wow, how's that not for you?
I just don't like going to the post office.
Yeah.
It's like that. I feel you. It's that extra work. I get it.
Facts. It was funny because that's probably the only reason why I was like, damn, man, you gotta make that trip and drop stuff.
Yeah, that extra.
But for us, I guess it's fortunate that it's right.
It's next. It's right there. It's across the street, so it's a benefit.
It's just the fact that I gotta leave from here when I'm comfortable.
I felt that though. I get it.
I gotta.
Got that out, all right, brother.
Yeah, well, listen, real quick, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you, man. Let them know your socials, if you have any socials, any way to contact you.
Yeah, actually, so we're at the Market of Marion every weekend, but you can find us on Facebook at Grizzly Collectibles. That's our main page. I'll be branching off from there with the Team Pocket page here shortly. Okay. I've been helping my friends who put me on get their internet presence set up and try and get posts done and, the marketing side of things. And so, you can find us there on Facebook, and you'll be kept up to date with any events. Oh, also, you'll see me post in the Central Florida Collector Group with
facts. All right, facts.
Well, big Stang gang, big Stang.
So listen, Stefan, man, I appreciate your time again, man. This was a blessing having you here today, getting a perspective again. That's the whole point. We are here to give y'all insight on what goes on in every community when it comes to being a geek, man. There's so many angles to this, man. It's not just us, man.
A lot more people out there.
And no matter what it is you're collecting or what you're into, you know what I'm saying? It is a passion that it all starts with a passion. You feel me? I don't think anybody just off rip just picks something up because it's hot. You got to have some type of familiarity, nostalgia, or something that draws you in. But again, man, I appreciate your time. You know what I'm saying? Y'all already heard how y'all can contact them, man. Team Pocket. You already know it's your boy Genis, a.k.a. Geniside. MAKCAPONE. This is Street Geeks. And definitely, man, we'll catch you on the next one.
Stay tuned.
Yes, sir. We outie.